The market street was loud and crowded, full of moving colors and sounds. Traders called out prices in many languages. Machines hummed as they floated above the ground, carrying goods from one stall to another. The air smelled of cooked food, warm metal, and dust from many worlds. It was the center of the colony, a place where no one stayed alone for long. Through all of this, a small alien girl ran. Her name was Lena. She was small even for her kind, with thin arms and short legs that moved as fast as they could. Her skin was a soft pale blue, darker around her eyes where tears streamed down without stopping. She pushed past taller beings, nearly falling more than once. Her breath came in short gasps and her hands shook as she ran. People noticed her. A tall trader glanced down and then looked away. A pair of guards watched her pass but did not move. Some beings stepped aside so she would not crash into them, but no one stopped her. No one asked what was wrong. A crying child was not rare here. Pain had many faces on a colony like this. Lena's chest hurt. Her throat burned. She did not know where else to go, but she knew who she was looking for. She searched the crowd with wide eyes, fear pushing her forward. Then she saw him. Evan stood near a supply stall, holding a small data pad and checking a list. He wore a simple work jacket, dark and worn at the edges. His hair was short and messy from a long shift. He looked tired but calm, like someone used to long days and small problems. He was human. Lena did not slow down. She ran straight toward him. Evan heard footsteps and looked up just in time to see the small figure rush toward him. He barely had time to react before Lena stopped right in front of him, her hands clenched into fists, her body shaking. She looked up at him with eyes full of fear. For a moment, Evan was unsure what to do. Children from many species passed through the market every day. Some asked for help. Some tried to sell things. Some ran scams taught by adults. But this was different. Lena was crying too hard to speak. Evan set his data pad aside and knelt down so he was closer to her height. He did not reach for her. He did not speak right away. He simply stayed there, steady and quiet. "It's okay," he said softly after a moment. "You can take your time." Lena tried to speak, but the words broke apart. She shook her head and wiped at her eyes, only to make the tears come faster. Her breathing was uneven, like she had been running for a long time. Evan glanced around. People were watching now. Not closely but enough to notice. Some paused. Some whispered. Still no one stepped forward. Evan focused only on Lena. "You're safe here," he said. "I'm listening." That was when Lena reached out. Her small hand grabbed his sleeve with surprising strength. Her grip was tight, almost desperate, like she was afraid he would disappear if she let go. She tugged at him, trying to pull him upward, then pointed back toward the far end of the market. "Please," she said at last. Her voice was thin and shaking. "Please, come." Evan felt something heavy settle in his chest. "Where?" he asked gently. Lena did not answer with words. She only pulled harder and looked back the way she had come, her fear clear in every movement. Evan stood up slowly, careful not to frighten her. He glanced once more at the crowd. Still no one moved. The guards had turned their attention elsewhere. The traders returned to their sales. He made a decision. "Okay," he said. "I'll come with you." Lena's grip tightened for just a moment, then relaxed slightly, like she had been holding her breath and could finally let it out. She turned and began to walk, pulling him along. They moved through the market together. Lena walked fast but not running now. Evan matched her pace easily. He stayed close, not pulling away, not pushing her to explain. As they walked, Evan noticed details. Lena's clothes were thin and worn. Her shoes were too big, patched together in places. Her arms showed faint marks of cold, the kind that came from long exposure, not injury. "Do you live nearby?" he asked. Lena nodded once but did not look at him. "Is someone hurt?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded again. This time her shoulders trembled. Evan felt his concern grow, but he kept his voice steady. "Okay, we'll see." They left the main market street and moved into quieter paths. The buildings here were older, built before the colony grew crowded. Lights flickered. The air felt cooler. Sounds faded. Lena slowed as they walked, like her strength was running out. Evan adjusted his steps so she would not have to pull so hard. "Do you want me to carry you?" he asked carefully. She shook her head quickly, fear flashing in her eyes. Evan did not ask again. They reached a narrow walkway that led between two tall housing blocks. The path was dim, lit by a single overhead strip that buzzed softly. Lena stopped and pointed ahead. "Home," she whispered. Evan followed her gaze. The building was small and old, its surface marked with cracks and faded signs. A single door stood at the front, closed and dark. Lena walked to it and pressed a panel. Nothing happened. She pressed it again, harder this time. Still nothing. Her breath caught. Evan stepped closer but did not touch the door yet. Is it locked? Lena nodded. No power, she said quietly. Evan looked at the panel. It was dead. He could see the signs easily. The building was running on minimal systems, if any at all. Is anyone inside? He asked. Lena nodded again. Tears started to fall once more. Evan placed his hand gently on the door and knocked. No answer. He looked down at Lena. Okay, he said. We'll figure this out. Lena looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. She seemed to be asking a question without words. Would he really help? Or would he leave like the others? Evan met her gaze and nodded once. I'm not going anywhere, he said. Something changed in Lena's expression then. Not relief, not yet, but hope, small and fragile. Evan checked the sides of the door, then the panel again. He pulled a small tool from his pocket, one he used often for simple repairs. He worked slowly, carefully, explaining each step in simple words, even though Lena did not ask. I just need to get the power back, he said. Nothing scary. Lena watched closely, her hands clasped together. After a few minutes, the panel lit up weakly. The door slid open with a low sound. Cold air spilled out. Lena rushed inside. Evan followed, already sensing that whatever waited inside had changed her life, and was about to change his too. But that was not yet the moment. For now, it was enough that a crying alien girl had run through a crowded market, and one human had stopped, knelt down, and listened. The door slid fully open with a weak sound and stopped halfway, as if it no longer had the strength to finish the motion. Cold air drifted out and wrapped around Evan's legs. It was not the sharp cold of space or machinery, but a quiet, empty cold that came from neglect. Lena stepped inside first. The room was dark. Only a thin line of light from the open door cut across the floor. Dust floated in the air, moving slowly. The place smelled old, not rotten, just forgotten. Evan paused at the doorway and let his eyes adjust. He had seen damaged homes before. Fires, break-ins, fights. This was none of those. This place had simply been left behind. Is this your home? Evan asked softly. Lena nodded. She stood very still, as if afraid the room might disappear if she moved too fast. Evan stepped inside and the door slid shut behind him with a dull click. The light from the market vanished. Darkness settled around them. He reached into his pocket and tapped his wrist unit. A soft white glow spread out just enough to see. The room was small. One table. 2 chairs. One thin sleeping mat pushed against the wall. No decorations. No personal items. No warmth. Evan slowly walked forward, careful with each step. The floor was cold under his boots. He could feel it even through the soles. He knelt near the center of the room and placed his hand flat on the ground. Cold. He looked up at the wall panels. They were old models, scratched and faded. The heat unit was dark. No power. When was the last time this place had light? He asked. Lena thought for a moment. I don't know, she said quietly. Long time. Her voice echoed slightly in the empty space. Evan stood and moved into the next room. It was even smaller. A storage space, maybe once a kitchen. There was nothing on the shelves. No food packs. No water containers. Not even empty wrappers. Evan swallowed. Do you eat at the market? He asked. Lena shook her head. Sometimes, people give things. Sometimes nothing. How long has it been since you ate today? She hesitated. Yesterday, she said. Evan closed his eyes for a brief second. This was not an accident. This was not a sudden loss. This was time. Long time. He opened his eyes and kept his voice steady. Thank you for telling me. He checked the water unit. Dry. The power line leading to it was cracked and poorly repaired. Someone had tried to fix it once long ago and failed. Evan leaned against the wall and looked around again, slower this time. There were no signs of struggle. No broken items. No damage from force. Just emptiness. Where are your family? He asked gently. Lena looked down at the floor. Her fingers twisted together. Gone, she said. They said they would come back. How long ago? Evan asked. Lena shrugged. I was smaller. Evan's chest tightened. He moved back into the main room and sat down on the floor so he was at Lena's level. She stood near the wall, watching him closely as if waiting for something bad to happen. You did the right thing, he said. You came for help. Her eyes filled again, but the tears did not fall this time. I tried others, she said. They said to wait. Or they said nothing. Evan nodded. He believed her. The colony had systems, offices, forms, rules. But systems did not always see what moved quietly at the edges. He looked around once more. The walls were thin. The air leaked through cracks. The temperature was unsafe for long stays, especially for a child. This was not danger. This was neglect. Evan stood and removed his jacket. He knelt and wrapped it gently around Lena's shoulders. She flinched at first, then froze. "It's warm," he said. "You can keep it." She looked down at the jacket, then back up at him. "You'll be cold." "I'll be fine," he said. "Humans are good with layers." She nodded slowly and pulled it closer. Evan activated his wrist unit again and sent a quiet message to a supply contact. "Not emergency. Just request. Food packs. Water. Portable heater." He did not call security. He did not call enforcement. Not yet. He knelt again and met Lena's eyes. "I need to ask you a few things. Is that okay?" She nodded. "Has anyone been here to check on you?" he asked. She shook her head. "Do you go to any learning center?" he asked. "No," she said. "They said I wasn't on the list." Evan frowned. "Did anyone help you sign up?" She shook her head again. Each answer added weight to the silence. Evan stood and walked to the far wall, where a small window looked out onto the colony edge. Outside, tall buildings blocked most of the light. This area had been forgotten when the colony expanded. He pressed his palm against the wall. "Cold again." "How do you sleep?" he asked. Lena pointed to the thin mat. "There. No heat." Evan asked. She shook her head. He exhaled slowly. Evan had worked maintenance long enough to know how this happened. No single act. No clear villain. Just small failures stacked on top of each other until someone fell through. He crouched near the mat and adjusted it, trying to make it more even. The mat was worn thin in the center. "You're very brave," he said. Lena looked confused. "I was scared." "Brave doesn't mean not scared," Evan said. "It means you moved anyway." She thought about that. A soft sound came from the door. Evan turned as it slid open again. A delivery drone hovered just outside, its lights blinking. Evan stepped forward and accepted the small crate. "Thank you," he said quietly. He brought it inside and set it on the table. Lena watched with wide eyes. "What is that?" she asked. "Food," Evan said. "And warmth." He opened the crate and pulled out a compact heater. He placed it near the center of the room and activated it. It hummed softly, then warm air began to spread. Lena let out a small sound of surprise and stepped closer to it. Evan handed her a food pack and showed her how to open it. She ate slowly at first, then faster. He did not rush her. He sat nearby and watched the heater readings. As the room warmed, Evan felt something settle inside him. Anger, yes, but also clarity. This was not a threat problem. Not a crime scene. Not an enemy to fight. This was a failure to care. When Lena finished eating, she looked up at him. "Will you go?" she asked quietly. Evan met her gaze. "Not today." She nodded and leaned closer to the heater, her shoulders relaxing for the first time. Evan looked around the small, quiet home again. Empty shelves. Cold walls. A child surviving alone in the shadows of a busy colony. Something inside him changed. He understood now. This was not about saving someone from danger. It was about seeing someone the system had chosen not to see. And once seen, he could not look away. Evan did not call anyone when the room grew warmer. He did not send reports or wait for permission. He simply stayed. The heater hummed softly, filling the small home with gentle warmth. It was not strong, but it was enough to push back the cold that had lived in the walls for too long. Evan adjusted its position, making sure the air moved evenly. He checked the power draw and nodded to himself. It would last through the night. Lena sat on the floor near the heater, her legs pulled close to her body. She held the empty food pack in her hands, turning it over as if it might disappear. Her eyes followed Evan everywhere he went. Evan noticed, but he did not comment. He moved slowly through the room, checking things one by one. He repaired a loose wall panel with his small tool. He sealed a thin crack near the window with temporary tape from his kit. Each action was calm and careful, like he had all the time in the world. Lena had never seen an adult move like this. Most adults who came near her were always in a hurry. They spoke fast, looked past her, or pointed her toward offices she did not understand. Some ignored her completely. Others spoke in cold voices like rules were more important than people. Evan was different. He did not rush. He did not raise his voice. He did not look annoyed. He finished sealing the crack and stepped back to check his work. "That should help keep the heat in," he said. Lena nodded, though she did not fully understand. She only knew the room felt better. Evan sat down on the floor across from her, keeping a respectful distance. He pulled out another food pack and opened it for himself. He ate slowly, not wanting her to feel rushed or watched. For a while neither of them spoke. The quiet felt strange but not uncomfortable. Lena broke it first. "Why are you here?" she asked. Evan looked at her. "Because you asked me to come." She frowned slightly. "Others didn't." "I know," he said. She studied his face, searching for something hidden. "They said to wait." Evan nodded. "Sometimes people say that when they don't know what else to do." "Will they come later?" Lena asked. "I don't know," Evan said honestly. "But you shouldn't have to wait alone." That answer confused her. She looked down at the floor. "You're not angry?" "No," Evan said. "You're not scared," she added. "I was a little worried," he said. "But I'm okay." Lena wrapped her arms around herself. "Helping costs things." Evan tilted his head slightly. "What do you mean?" "Food costs," she said. "Heat costs. Time costs." He smiled softly. "That's true." "Then why give it?" she asked. Evan thought about that for a moment. He could have given many answers. Rules. Duty. Kindness. Being human. Instead he said, "Because I can." Lena stared at him. That answer stayed with her. After eating, Evan stood again and checked the water unit. It was still broken, but he managed to reroute a small line from an emergency reserve in the building. The flow was weak but steady. "Clean water," he said. "Not much but enough for now." Lena approached carefully, watching his hands. When water came out, her eyes widened. "You fixed it," she said. "For now," Evan replied. "We'll need a better repair later." She touched the water with one finger, then pulled her hand back, smiling slightly. Evan noticed the smile and felt a quiet warmth of his own. As the room grew more comfortable, Lena's body language changed. Her shoulders lowered. Her breathing slowed. She leaned against the wall instead of standing ready to run. Still she watched Evan closely. Every movement. Every word. She expected something in return. A question. A demand. A warning. None came. Evan cleaned up the empty food packs and placed them neatly aside. He checked the heater one more time, then sat back down. "Do you sleep?" he asked. Lena hesitated. "Sometimes." "When was the last time?" he asked. She shrugged. "When I'm very tired." Evan nodded. "You should sleep now." She stiffened. "You'll leave." "No," he said. "I'll stay nearby." "Why?" she asked again. "So you can rest," he said simply. She watched him, unsure. He leaned back against the wall and rested his hands on his knees. "I'm not going anywhere," he repeated. Slowly, Lena lay down on the mat. Evan adjusted it again, making it more comfortable. He placed his jacket under her head like a pillow. She froze when he did this, then relaxed when he pulled his hand away. "You don't need to watch," he said gently. "I'll watch." Her eyes stayed open for a long time. Evan did not speak. He did not look at his wrist unit. He did not rush her to sleep. He simply stayed where he was, steady and quiet. Eventually Lena's eyes closed. Her breathing evened out. She slept. Evan watched her chest rise and fall. He listened to the sound of the heater and the faint hum of the building systems. Outside, distant colony noise continued, unaware. As Lena slept, Evan thought. He thought about how many times he had walked past buildings like this. How many forms he had filled. How many reports he had closed without seeing what lived between the lines. He felt no guilt. Only resolve. When Lena stirred hours later, the room was warmer. Light from outside filtered through the window. Evan was still there. She sat up slowly and looked around, confused. Then she remembered. "You stayed," she said. "Yes," Evan replied. She touched the heater, then the water unit, then the jacket still around her shoulders. "You didn't have to," she said quietly. Evan met her eyes. "I wanted to." That was the moment Lena understood something she had never seen before. Help did not always come with rules. Or anger. Or fear. Sometimes help was simply given. And that idea changed how she looked at him. It also changed how Evan looked at the world beyond that small, quiet home. The sound of footsteps came from outside the home just after midday. Evan heard them first. They were steady, trained steps, not hurried. He stood slowly and glanced at Lena, who was sitting near the heater, holding a cup of warm water in both hands. "People are coming," he said gently. "It's okay. Stay here." Lena's eyes widened. Her body stiffened, old fear rising fast. "They'll make me leave," she whispered. Evan shook his head. Not without listening. A sharp knock echoed through the room. Then another. Colony Services, a voice called. Open the door. Evan walked to the door and opened it fully. Two officials stood outside. One wore a clean gray uniform with a badge. The other held a data pad and scanned the room without stepping inside. Behind them, two more humans waited, maintenance workers Evan recognized from other jobs. The official with the badge looked at Evan. We received a report of unauthorized repairs and resource use. Evan nodded. That would be me. The official raised an eyebrow. You should have filed a request. I didn't, Evan said calmly. The official glanced past him and noticed Lena. Her eyes lingered there for a moment, then returned to Evan. Who is the child? She lives here, Evan replied. The second official tapped the data pad. Records show this unit is inactive. No registered residents. That's the problem, Evan said. The official's expression tightened. Sir, step aside. We need to inspect. Evan did not move. With respect, he said, his voice steady, you're already seeing the inspection. The official frowned. This is procedure. So is protecting residents, Evan replied. And she is one. Lena shrank back slightly, clutching the cup. The official sighed. Sir, this isn't how things are done. Evan looked directly at her. Then how should this have been done? She paused, clearly not expecting the question. Evan stepped aside just enough to let them see the room clearly. No food, he said. No power. No heat. No water. A child living alone in a dead zone. The official looked around more carefully now. The empty shelves. The thin mat. The patched walls. This unit fell off the active grid years ago, the second official said quietly, checking the pad. It was never flagged for follow-up. Evan nodded. She tried to get help. The first official crossed her arms. And why didn't you report this immediately? Evan met her gaze. Because I didn't want this to become a form before it became help. One of the maintenance workers behind him stepped forward. I can confirm the systems here were never repaired. I passed this block many times. Another nodded. Same. It wasn't on our route list. The officials exchanged a look. Lena finally spoke, her voice small but clear. I didn't know who to tell. The first official crouched slightly, lowering her height. Why didn't you go to the service office? Lena looked at the floor. They said I wasn't listed. Silence filled the room. Evan felt it shift, heavy and uncomfortable. That's not her failure, he said. That's ours. The official straightened slowly. Her face no longer looked strict, just tired. We'll need to relocate her temporarily, she said. No, Evan replied firmly. She looked surprised. Sir? She doesn't need relocation, he said. She needs support. Here. Stability. The second official hesitated. Policy. Policy didn't feed her, Evan said. Or warm her. Or see her. One of the maintenance workers spoke up. We can restore power fully today. It's not hard. And I can bring supplies, the other added. Real ones. The officials looked around again, this time seeing more than a broken room. The first official sighed. We failed her. Evan nodded. Yes. There was no anger in his voice. Just truth. The official turned to Lena. We're sorry. Lena looked at Evan before answering. He gave her a small nod. Okay, she said. That single word felt bigger than any report. Within the hour, the room changed. Lights came on fully. Warm air filled the space. Water flowed stronger through the unit. New food packs arrived, stacked neatly on the table. Lena watched it all in silence, eyes wide. Evan stood to the side, answering questions when needed, never raising his voice, never stepping back. When the officials finished, the first one approached him again. You should have waited for authorization. Evan met her eyes. Sometimes waiting is the harm. She studied him, then nodded once. You're right. As they prepared to leave, the official turned back. We'll assign permanent support. Monitoring. Education access. Lena's hands trembled. Evan knelt beside her. This is good, he said quietly. It means you won't be alone. She nodded, trusting him. As the door closed behind the officials, the room felt different. Not just warmer. Lighter. Lena looked up at Evan. They listened. Yes, he said. They listened because you spoke. Evan shook his head. They listened because you were seen. She thought about that. Later, as Evan stepped outside, other humans nodded at him. Some clapped him on the shoulder. None spoke loudly. They did not need to. Change had begun. Not with force. Not with fear. But with someone standing still, speaking clearly and refusing to look away. The light in the room no longer flickered. It stayed steady, warm, and soft, filling every corner of the small home. The heater hummed with a quiet strength. The shelves were no longer empty. Food packs were stacked neatly. Clean water flowed without stopping. Lena stood near the center of the room, holding a cup in both hands. She turned slowly, looking at everything again as if afraid it might vanish if she blinked. Then she smiled. It was small at first, unsure, like she was testing a feeling she had not used in a long time. Her lips curved gently and her eyes softened. The fear that had lived there for days finally loosened its grip. Evan noticed it right away. He did not say anything. He did not point it out. He simply watched, feeling something tight in his chest ease at last. "That's your home," he said quietly. "It's yours." Lena nodded. She walked to the wall and placed her hand against it. Warm. She laughed softly, a sound so light it barely filled the room. "I like it," she said. Evan smiled back. The officials had left an hour earlier. The workers were gone too. The door was closed but not locked. For the first time, the home felt safe without being sealed off from the world. Evan checked his wrist unit. Messages waited. Reports. Questions. None felt urgent now. He knelt in front of Lena. "I have to go soon," he said gently. Her smile faded just a little. "But I'll come back," he added. "And others will too. You won't be alone." She studied his face carefully, searching for doubt. "I believe you," she said. Those words stayed with him. Evan stood and pulled on his jacket. He hesitated, then stopped and removed it again. "You keep it," he said, placing it over her shoulders once more. "I have others." Lena held the fabric and nodded. "Thank you." He walked to the door, then paused. "Lena," he said. "Yes." "You were brave," he said. "Don't forget that." She smiled again, stronger this time. When Evan stepped outside, the air felt different. Not colder or warmer. Just clearer. The colony street was busy again. People walked past, talked, laughed. Life continued, unaware of how close it had come to missing something important. Evan walked home alone. But he was not the same. Each step felt heavier, not with worry but with understanding. He noticed the edges of buildings more. The quiet paths. The places people passed without looking. He thought of how easy it was to miss someone like Lena. How easy it had been for everyone. That thought stayed with him. Over the next days, changes spread quietly. Service teams returned to the block more than once. Other inactive units were checked. Names were added to lists. Missing lines were filled in. Not because of anger. Because of awareness. People talked about what had happened. Not loudly. Not as gossip. More like reflection. A human worker noticed, some said. He didn't wait, others added. He just helped. Lena began attending a local learning center. She walked there with a small group each morning. She still wore Evan's jacket. It was too big, but she liked it that way. She smiled more often now. Sometimes she waved when she saw Evan in the distance. He always waved back. Evan continued his work, but with sharper eyes. He asked more questions. He stopped more often. Others noticed and began doing the same. No rule had changed. But behavior had. The colony would not record the moment in any official archive. No statue would be built. No speech would be given. But it would be remembered. In small ways. In warmer rooms. In children who no longer ran alone through crowded streets. Human care had crossed a line that fear never could. And once crossed, it did not fade. It stayed.